Welcome to the first YouTube Live, the First Time Go podcast. We're here with the directors of A Thousand Suns. It is an honor to be with you, gentlemen. It's a fantastic series. I definitely, if you haven't checked it out yet, it's available at 1ksuns.com, all 6 episodes. And I'll read through the episodes here. Ice episode 1, directed by Rory Robinson. Red episode 2, directed by McGregor. Exodus episode 3, directed by Tyson Ray Johnston. Deal episode 4, directed by McGregor. Bug episode 5, directed by Tim Heighton and McGregor. And Tomorrowland episode 6, directed by Rory Robinson. So, Rory, if you wanted to start, just let me know how you got involved in filmmaking. I'd love to hear that story, and then we'll go around and hear those stories. And then we'll go from there. Definitely encourage people, if they have questions, to ask that on the chat.
Well, I'm the oldest and widest here by a long way. And so I've been kind of doing it a little bit longer than these guys. And I'm from Ireland, and I grew up in a council estate, and there was no film industry to speak of there. So once computers became cheap enough to be able to do 3D animation at home, that felt like an opening for me that I could make films myself by learning it myself. And I did an animated short that got nominated for an Oscar
Wow.
200 billion years ago in 2002. Sort of, I guess I can say for the rest of my life, I lost an Oscar to Pixar, I guess.
I mean, if you had to lose one, right?
It's something I didn't mind losing, to be honest, if it's to Pixar.
Awesome. Tim, did you want to share how you got involved in filmmaking?
Well, I was like 24 years old and had
Mic volume, Tim.
mic volume.
Your volume is so low.
Okay, I'm gonna rejoin from another computer.
All right. Tyson, if you want to fill in here while Tim messes around with his volume.
Yeah, for me, it was super just loose and random, like a sheer act of survival. I grew up in the country in Australia, and my mum moved my brothers and I to America in our teenage years. And I think I got, when I was about 18 and all my friends were choosing their colleges, it was kind of the only skill set I had was filmmaking. So I just moved to LA, and there's no safety net. It's just been that for me.
Does that help, you think, to just be able to be so focused on it that you're like, you know what, I have to make this work because otherwise, you know.
Yeah, I think so. And it also just helped build a wide variety of skill sets, just like the things I've done to survive over the past decade here in LA. As a writer, as an editor.
The things you've done to survive.
Well, yeah, I was like every positive attribute.
He means writing and editing, I think.
No, but I'd attribute that every positive quality I have as a professional has just come from that, like just the absolute necessity to survive and make a living.
Awesome. And
Yeah.
Tim, I think I'm sure we have you back with great volume.
Is it better?
It's
yeah.
great.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you got a little
Okay,
cat
cool.
in the background. I love it.
Yeah, his name is Rex.
Awesome.
What was the question?
How did you get involved in filmmaking?
I was in my mid-20s and I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I really loved behind-the-scenes features on DVDs. So I used to watch those, and I would buy the DVDs more for like how many behind-the-scenes features they had rather than like the movie itself. And I was always fascinated that people could make money just crafting these things. And it always just looked so fun. So I moved to LA and was broke for a long time and started making money editing. That's pretty
Awesome.
much it.
That's an awesome story. And then McGregor, can you answer that question? You're founded Black Milk Studios and you put this series together. So you can answer that question as well as like how you came together with these great directors. Did you all know each other at first, or did you just find these great people to direct these films?
Yeah, I mean, I know these guys for a while, and I started doing this in the beginning, and you know, they're friends and filmmakers, so we started commenting on it, and then it's like, I think Rory jumped on the first, like, hey, can I do one? Because the idea was always, hey, what if we do these small stories, but we put them all together? Because these days you just make a short film and it just doesn't go anywhere. But is that, hey, no, we have an idea here for a little series of like an anthology. And then Tyson jumped in, is like, hey, I want to do another one. And then for Tim.
Now, is there a specific, I know they're labeled episode 1, episode 2. Is there a way to think about them like by that numbers, or how did you come across by like assigning and then figuring out which story is which and numbers and all that?
No, I think, right, guys, we figure out a way to organize them in a way that we thought it would be a nice, not roller coaster, but a nice journey through the series.
Awesome. And then were they, and maybe Rory, you can answer this one since you jumped in first on it. Were they directed like simultaneously, or were they directed at different times at different locations and different sets and all that?
Well, my film Ice and Mac's film Deal were made back to back in Iceland,
Wow.
a week apart basically. So there wasn't snow when he was shooting his, and then we just had to wait a couple of extra days for the snow, and then suddenly it looked like a whole different country or a planet even. Yeah, so we had the same crew between the two, and we had friends come over, Mac's friends who work in cinematography, and Iceland is a kind of a travel shooting destination as well. So there's photographers coming in and out of the place constantly. So Mac actually knew people who were in the country anyway that came on board to help just because they were there at the right time. So yeah, those two were shot back to back, and then I guess Mac can speak to Red and the rest of the other.
Yeah, I think something to mention is that because we were a very small team and we built the props ourselves and the wardrobe, and we had to go scout, we would like, all right, in the next couple months, we're going to focus entirely on this film. And then you start building the props and just putting together the crew. And then, all right, we're done. Moving on to the next one. So they were all staggered. Like, is that how you said that?
Okay.
Like one after another. Yeah.
Well, the thing that I mean, like maybe it was a post, but like these do not look like, hey, we just went out and we filmed on our iPhones, like in the backyard, and now we're posting. I mean, these look extraordinarily well done. Tyson, maybe you can talk about that because I really loved what you did with Exodus. Can you talk about like just sort of like the look of it? Like it's not just like, hey, we're just going to create a short, small budget like short. Like a lot of time and energy and effort went into this.
Yeah, I think because we had McGregor shooting and curating the crews on each of the pieces, there's a very there's continuity between the look and scale and feel all of them. And although Exodus only takes place within a farmhouse and a ranch, it's still able to hold up against the others. Just because we had a lot of the same crews behind it all.
Interesting. And McGregor, was it a lot of it in post? Like, did just the look of it was done? A lot of it in post, or did?
No, I think a lot of people ask is that how much. I mean, we wanted to make it feel real, so we wanted to go to real locations because I think there's just we went to Iceland. The light there is nothing you can replicate in LA.
That's awesome.
And we did. I think every single film we've done. We've spent a lot of time thinking, all right, what's the best location we can shoot this on that serves the story, but it's also, doable. And for example, for Bug, the one Tim and I did together, we look, I don't know, Tim, how many houses did we look at? Like 4,000 houses just to get the right look.
Maybe more. Like we were like, okay, we wanted like a rainy, dark look. And so we were like, okay, we'll look in like Oregon. And then we were like, well, maybe Seattle. Then we're like Vancouver. And then we slowly moved to the whole, like we looked at the whole continent pretty much. And we found basically one place that we thought might work, which is the one we did. There was, out of the thousands and thousands of houses we were looking at, literally there was only 1 to 5 of them where we thought we could actually afford this and get there and shoot it. So we didn't have like which should we like. It was like it ended up being like it worked out perfectly.
Yeah. And with Rory, we went up top of a glacier in Iceland, and it probably was not the smartest logistical decision, but
It's cool though.
it brought some realism to it. And Rory, you can talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, we drove up on this Caterpillar vehicle. I can't remember what they're called. They're like specially modified to drive on glaciers, and it looked like there was abandoned camps on the way up, and it looked like the thing. Like it looked like we're driving into a horror movie already, just going there. And when we got there, it was a whiteout blizzard on the top of the glacier. You couldn't even tell it was a glacier because it was such a whiteout conditions. And every take, the actor, ice would build up on his costume. The costume was all 3D printed at home by me, and I painted it in a spray tent in my back garden. So it was made out of cheap plastic.
Wow.
So we had no idea how it's going to hold up under these conditions. Turned out it looks pretty good, actually.
It looks fantastic. Yeah.
And when we were shooting there, like the crew had to stay within visual range of the vehicle, because if you step too far away, you get lost. You might never be found again. There's like crevices in the glacier and stuff you could fall into. So we just had to be really careful. Everyone's wearing like bright orange to make them very highly visible. But yeah, so and the light there, you couldn't really replicate that on a green screen stage, or because the light is coming uniformly from all directions, like completely uniformly. Like even a LED stage, you couldn't volume, you couldn't quite do that. So it was amazing to see for real in front of your face something that once you see it on camera, and we shot this on Panavision E series anamorphic lenses, and I think Mac agrees, the best lenses in the world. So Mac did an amazing job shooting them. He was basically like the visual quality control between all the films.
Right, because it does have a consistency to it. You know, when you watch all 6, they do have a consistency, even though the pacing is a little different in each film. Tim, what is it like editing a sci-fi film? Like, is it a lot different than what you would say, you know, editing just say a rom-com or something like that? Is there a different skill set required as part of editing sci-fi films?
No, I think it's all the same. I think the only thing with comedy is it's subjective, and also you have a billion takes with comedy usually.
Right.
And most of them aren't funny, but everybody thinks they're all funny.
Right.
So it's actually, that's the most annoying one with sci-fi. And like with Bugs specifically, we used every shot we did. So it was pretty easy. It's like, what's the best take? And I think typically with editing, I like to do as little as possible, really.
Yep.
As few cuts, leave the takes as long as you can, as long as somebody will let you do it. I don't think there's much of a difference. I have the same approach no matter what, I think.
Interesting. And
like
was there any AI used in this? Like, do you guys want to talk about, if anybody is really passionate about this topic, because that's huge in indie film now, like no AI. Does anybody?
We had done. I guess I'll handle this. We had 3 films mostly ready, and then we decided, we should do another film. Then Tyson came on board, and then we had 4 films, and we're like, oh, is that enough? We do 5 films, and so we had 5 films kind of rolling, and while they were finishing posting that, I basically had a down period where I had no work on, and was just sort of twiddling my thumbs. So I said, like, why don't I just do something else as kind of a doodle sketch for the film? So I made Tomorrowland, which did use some AI tools in the process. It's like AI generated images projected onto 3D geometry and rendered traditionally using V-Ray, but there was some AI in the process. But it was just only on that film, and it was only me doing it. So if anyone wants to get angry, don't get angry at these guys. It's all my fault.
Right.
I'm the bad guy.
Well, it's going to be, people are going to use it as a tool. It's not going to go away. Now, we have to figure out like what the right way to use it is, but it's not going to just like this idea that we can't use it for anything. I don't feel strongly that way. Does anybody?
Yeah, I can see people get angry about it. I understand the concerns. They're valid concerns. But this was done just by me for free, so
right.
Nobody lost a job or gained a job doing it. It was just like a sketch.
Right.
Or I consider it the afterbirth of the project.
Awesome. So McGregor, was this what you originally planned? Like, I think I've read that you have like another like maybe 9 films at some point. Like, what is this like what you envisioned, and what's the next steps for this?
Yeah, I think a lot of the projects started with a single image, concept art, or just an idea. And then I think early on, I brought Phil Gillette, who's an amazing writer. Is that, hey, Phil, what do you think about this? They're going to be short, but if we've got these 10, 15 ideas just based on very small, or not small, but just um, a single pitch or a single image. And then we started developing all of them. And then it's like, all right, we're happy with this. Which ones are you the most excited about, and which ones are more feasible to produce, right? So we just went with what was right at that moment, and we started. Okay, we got one. So we still have a few more to go, and
Okay.
we'd love to continue producing this.
Okay. And
Phil
then,
Gillette was the writer on many of the episodes of Love, Death, and Robots as well.
and it's fantastic. Definitely encourage people, if you're watching this and you haven't watched all 6, go watch it now. 1K Suns. It's great. I mean, it just blows me away at just the amount of the quality that's in these films. So, as directors, can you talk a little bit about where you see short films fitting in to your workload? Like, obviously, everyone wants to do a feature. Do you think this is like could be a new model that Black Milk is introducing, like as a way to monetize this kind of filmmaking to make it viable? And maybe Tyson, if you want to take that first.
My take on it, like the format isn't very sustainable in terms of profitability, but it's the best training ground to play with teams, to get some miles under your belt, to play with cameras, to play with stories and ideas, and just sharpen your craft. Also to get recognized. Like, I think all of our careers were discovered off of shorts, and features came from those shorts, and commercials came from those shorts. So it's especially when you're breaking out, it's the best way to get discovered and to put your name on the map. But like, to me, it's just about the process. Like, I'd go back and do a short anytime.
Nice.
It's also just to approach a short from a story point of view, it's a completely different beast than a feature or than something long form. Right. It's a short story, and there's an art in that. Like, I love reading short stories, and they pack a wildly different punch than a long story does. So,
right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
One thing I would say is that I always like short sci-fi stories, science fiction stories, because there's two things. There are some stories that they're great for a 15-20 minute read or watch, and if you try to extend them too much, it's like, all right, it's just you're just filling up with nothing. And the other thing is that just sometimes I get home and I'm just tired, but I want to watch something,
Right.
but I don't have the energy to watch a 2-hour feature film. But
No.
it'll be great to watch a 15-20 minute thing, and the only format that is 22 minutes is basically like sitcoms, right? Like, there's no real narrative that is that short. There's
Nope.
I think Black Mirror at some point in the beginning where the episodes were shorter, and now they kept them going longer and longer, where I'm like, I don't have 90 minutes to watch it. So just get home and want to relax and want to watch something good. I think there's a little bit of room for that, but obviously, ultimately, the audience and the streamer and the networks will decide that.
But this
It's
had
the only
yeah,
format where you can tell a story visually, where there's no politics or
Right.
layers of middle management telling you can't do anything. You do whatever the fuck you want. So it's just a pure creative expression of ideas that's kind of only limited by either the budget or your own creativity. So I love doing them for that reason. I've done a bunch of them now, and I'll keep doing them in between other things. They're cool.
And this had to have impressed you guys, right? Like, I think on the YouTube, I noticed it had like each of them had like over 250,000 views. Like, the response had to have been. Inverse called it the best sci-fi anthology this year. The response had to have made you guys happy, right? Like, to this.
Totally.
Yep,
So
pretty pleased so far.
I didn't know what to expect because I've had friends release shorts in the past 2 months that have 500 views,
Right.
or 2,000 views on short of the week or these things. And, there's not a lot of places that you can get a lot of views. So I didn't know what to expect. So it's been pretty cool.
One of the things that's been concerning is that the algorithms have changed over the years on YouTube, and they no longer favor like individual short form content. They only seem to favor people who continuously like send out long form stuff. So we were a little concerned that just doing a short film might not do the same business it might have 10 or 7 years ago or whatever. So putting 6 of them together to go out at once was sort of a mutual benefit package that allowed them to like play off each other in the algorithm, and you'd play one and then you could go to the next one, they'd all kind of feed off each other. Hopefully that was the intention, at least.
No, well, I think we're over 1 million views now, which in just 4 or 5 days, cool. I think is way more than we anticipated, which is good.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I really think this could be, a model for moving forward for short films, because we certainly don't need another like company doing it. I mean, you got a ton of companies doing like short of the week, whatever. I mean, but if they're able to like control like the narrative for it, you're not giving it to someone else. Like, I think it's amazing. And I really am cheering for the model going forward. So I wanted to ask you guys a few questions about the specific episodes, and I'll start with you, Tim, because Bug really kind of stood out as a little bit more like of a contemporary setting. Was that intentional? Like, you were like, what connected you to that material and specifically Bug?
So we wanted to shoot something very small and contained, and we wanted it to still match the sci-fi elements of the rest of the films. And it originally was set in the desert, like similar to Tyson's, but we couldn't make another one that looked like Tyson's. His was already done and it was so great. So then I thought, I've been watching all these Korean movies lately. I thought, shoot, why don't we just put it all in Korean? And I had this great idea. I was like, dude, we're not going to use any subtitles. It's just going to be Korean, and you guys can F off if you don't like it. Yeah. And then I put it together and I was like, holy shit, we need subtitles, dude. I'm so bored. What is happening? Who cares? So the first rough draft, just like there's subtitles on it. Mac was like, oh, are we doing subtitles? It's like, absolutely. So that was.
Is this the first Korean horror film made in America in Korean?
It could be.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was the whole process. We wanted to make it easy, quick, shootable. We wanted to have a monster that didn't look like anything we'd ever really seen before. I know everybody says that, but and then lastly, we thought putting it in Korean was a nice touch, and I love Korean movies, so that was basically it.
Yeah, I'm still haunted by, I don't have water in front of me, but a few of those shots of the tap water was like, oh God, what if?
Yeah, it could be happening right now, Ben.
And Rory, your films, was there anything that you can say, like, if somebody's watching that, like when you're watching both those films, Tomorrowland, like you said, more of a sketch of, and when people watch it, it's kind of like a laugh there at the end. But can you talk about like what threads those two together?
I just really love corporations, so I just wanted to do an ode to corporations all over and say how great corporations are. And I'm a big fan of vertical integration and
right.
I don't know. I mean, like ICE is obviously kind of a play on like BlackRock and Halliburton going to Iraq and just saving democracy. You know what I mean? It's about us going to an alien culture and sharing democracy with them.
Awesome.
It's about the beauty of corporations.
Love that. And Tyson, Exodus, it really struck me as like a great way to deal with the climate crisis and show it like over a long span. And I feel like so many climate films are like, here, let me make a documentary about the climate and how we're all going to die from global warming, which is great, but we don't need that reminder like every single minute. So these kind of films might be a better way to sort of tell the story without like hitting you over the head. Was that part of the focus of why you did Exodus?
It was more of a trigger just to get into the characters and the conflict. Like the real conflict I was focused on was just ordinary people pinned down in a severe situation where they have no control over their circumstances. And that was just the primary focus of the short is great people that have real aspirations and real hopes and just systematic oppressions that pin them down to their situations. And how the government does very little to look out for them and how politicians lie to them. So I just wanted to create a dire world, and that like just my projection of the future there, what did happen to involve climate change.
You certainly did. Just seeing that, and then skipping ahead to, 2090 and seeing the same thing happen. You guys managed to hit hard in like, I think the longest runtime was like 5 minutes. It's just incredible. And McGregor, your films, I feel like dealt with nature and horror. If that makes sense, like, was there a certain brand that you saw in the films that you directed that's sort of a through line there of your interests?
Yeah, actually, I never thought about it. I think it all started with on Deal, for example. I was talking to Phil Gillette, the writer. We were like, what? Like, basically, it's the conflict of encountering death, right? And the old trope of making a deal with the devil. And what if we do the most grounded, gritty version of that, so that theme is there, but it's just underlaying under everything. And then there were some very strong visual cues. We love that big landscape, nature oppressive in like nature is brutal and it doesn't care about whether you're right or wrong or you're good or bad or evil. And I think we started putting it all together, and it's kind of like things. It's so funny because it's the perfect example of teamwork, where I bring this little grain of sand and he brings another one, and at the end we start building a little beach where things start making sense. And it ended up a good comment that I got by our makeup artist. Once we had filmed Deal, she comes to me and she's like, you know what this reminds me of? It looks like a Studio Ghibli Miyazaki movie, like Princess Mononoke. And we never intended to do that, but it just, I guess, had the similar, because later on I went back to it, and Miyazaki has a lot of respect for nature and tradition. So it's almost like using the same ingredients to cook something different, but still it's in the same world.
Awesome. And you definitely succeeded on that. So I'll ask each of you individually, what's next for you, starting with you, McGregor?
We're going to do 200 more of this by next year.
Wow.
With the same level of quality and excitement. Yes.
These guys are like, all right, I guess I, got to free the calendar.
No, I do a lot of commercials that pays the bills, but when you do commercials, you're told what to do. So I think this was like a nice escape. On us, like, all right, let's do what we want to do. And I think we all would love to continue making more of this.
Right.
And I know these guys also have ideas for feature films attached to some of these stories, or completely different, but with the same, what do you call it? Not style, but I mean, with their own
vibes.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Before I continue on that, do any of you think like the model of like crowdfunding and like Scene Spark and Kickstarter and all these like, is that a viable way to like, continue to build a career? Or do you guys just see that as like sort of this one-off that makes it one film possible, but it's not really build a career? If anyone wants to take that.
I feel like
I've never done a funding campaign like that. I'm terrified of it because I'm afraid I'd fail and then be embarrassed for the rest of my life. So I have no idea how viable those things are. The trap of those things is that to entice people, you have to like deliver loads of rewards and stuff like that that are like all that
Instagram
stuff, and it just seems
shout-outs.
like by the time you finish these things, you're wiped out, man. You know. So my goal after this is to get a good night's sleep.
Awesome.
Then maybe do 200 more.
Right. So Tyson, what's next for you? Do you have like a project in mind that you are shooting for?
Yeah, as it pertains to this, I've got a million ideas. So I hope I hope it takes on some legs and we get to entertain those. And then in the future world, I've got some things going on that I can't talk about. But yeah, it's bouncing between those worlds, features, and hopefully doing a lot more of these.
Right. And hopefully it's a model that can continue. Tim, is there anything that you can talk about in terms of what's next?
Same as Tyson, all my stuff is deeply secret and very high production value. No, I'm working on a feature based on some material here from these things, these shorts, and
Awesome.
hopefully we get to make more. And then I've got another feature I've been working on for 50 years. I'm going to do another short pretty quick, just something for fun, not related, just just for fun.
Awesome. The great thing is about this, I mean, the series is great, but it also sounds like there's real camaraderie, or maybe you guys are great actors too, but it seems like
well, we've all worked with each other for many years and been friends for years, and my short film Blinky, McGregor shot it, and that was back in 2011. And Tyson has written screenplays for me as well, and
awesome.
we just all been friends for a long time. So it's a really natural environment to work in because we all already pre-trusted each other. So there isn't kind of politics, there isn't like power games or worrying if people are gonna like usurp you or some bullshit like that, because we all kind of already trust each other,
And as it pertains to just this project, that we all have so much to offer each other. And I can't tell you how many days and weeks we spend. Rory's got a great house in the mountains, and how many nights we stayed up just working on each other's stuff. It's like
awesome.
Tim and I were the editors of the group. Max shot everything. Rory helped with so many of the edits and so much of the visual effects. And it was very tribal and communal in that sense, where everyone just took their strongest skill sets and put it into not just our own shorts, but each other's shorts too.
Awesome. And Rory, did you have a project that you can talk about that's coming up, or anything that you?
I have a bunch of screenplays I've been developing, and hopefully this will help kickstart getting them made, because it's very difficult to get films made in the system, as you know. So you sort of have to constantly reinvigorate yourself by showing new stuff to show what you can do. So I have at least 4 screenplays that I think are fucking amazing that I'd love to make. So we'll see how it goes. Can I curse here? I just did 7 times, and no one else did.
I don't.
Okay,
stop it. I think it's just broadcast TV is the only place where curse, but YouTube, curse away. It's a fucking great time. So final question here, guys. So the Filmmakers podcast, love hyping other people's projects. Not everyone, unfortunately, has the same sort of camaraderie that you guys have, which it just really is awesome to see, because it's so hard out there to get your stuff done. So I just want to ask each of you, like, if there's a filmmaker or film that you wish more people knew about. Rory, I'll start with you.
Can you come back to me, because I need to think about this for a second?
All right. Tim, do you have somebody that you like think, man, I wish more people knew about this guy or this particular film?
There's a Korean film that came out recently called Burning. And it's amazing.
Oh, that's amazing.
Did you see it, Roy? It's amazing.
It's really good. Really good.
If you haven't seen it. And it's kind of new. It's not like a classic film or anything, but the filmmaker is pretty respected, and I was blown away by that. I like how it's just so grounded, and it's got all this serious stuff going on, but it's like it's so grounded. So I would say check that one out.
Awesome. And Tyson, if there was something that you love and want to share.
God, I haven't had the time to go see much lately. Outside of all the blockbusters, I love Civil War. This small filmmaker named Denis Villeneuve made a cool little film called Dune 2. I loved Dev Patel's Monkey Man. I went and saw that
Yeah.
recently. I get there's a small Australian horror that's doing the rounds in American theaters now called the Late Night with the Devil. And an actress that was in my first feature film is one of the stars of that. I haven't seen it yet, but whenever an Australian film breaks out with American audiences, it's something worth shouting out. Talk to Me last year, I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah.
I've been meaning to see Late Night with the Devil, and I'll probably go sometime this week.
Awesome. And McGregor?
Yeah, I'm jumping really quick to IMDb really quick to see what's on my favorite list. Can't think of anything right now. I mean, all the ones I like are well established. I don't know. I'll pass the question.
Well, you can come back in the comments and post be like, here's McGregor's, and we'll conclude. Rory, if you had one.
Yeah, there's a film called Tanya's Island from 1980. That's the greatest film ever made. It's wonderful and beautiful. It's the romance between Vanity, the model, and an ape on this deserted island. It's really good. I've never seen it, but it's really good.
The deserted island?
The movie, it's very sensual. Very sensual. Now, I watched a very small movie recently-ish. I kind of know the filmmaker slightly. There's a little movie called Come True by Anthony Scott Burns that I thought was really interesting. It's about this kind of dream device thing and it's done in this weird psychotronic 80s Brian De Palma style, and it's he shot it himself. The director filmed it himself for a very low budget. I thought it was a really interesting, unique little movie.
Did you see?
But it's no Tanya's Island, the greatest film ever made.
Rory, did you see The Death of Dick Lone?
No, I haven't seen that one.
That's a good one.
Okay.
Done by the Daniels, one of the Daniels.
Oh, okay.
It's a small indie movie, and it's amazing. Don't look up anything about it.
Did it just come out? Tim, is it new?
That?
Is it new? Did it just come out?
It's a couple years old. Couple years old.
Okay.
I'll do another one. The Wailing. It's a 2017 Korean horror film. It's the best horror film I've seen in the last decade. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I can't thank you guys enough for participating in the first live podcast that we've had. This is going to make editing so much easier because it's a live podcast. So it's all right, it just is what it is. So this was a fantastic way to spend a little bit of Friday night. Definitely encourage people, if you listen to 40 minutes of us talking and you haven't seen the films, which can't imagine somebody hasn't, but if you haven't, 1K Sons. And McGregor, just follow the YouTube your YouTube channel to look out, and the website for the newest films coming out.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this is a great way to spend a Friday night. Thank you guys for participating in the first live First Time Go podcast.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Really nice to talk to you.
All right.